I wanted to do a really quick comparison between two peaches. This is a seedling of one called Siberian Sea, just the letter Siberian Sea. I got the seeds from Michael and I don't exactly know how to pronounce his name, but he said that he's been doing breeding with them for about 4 generations for, I think, larger fruit size and cold hardiness and whatever else. And admittedly, this tree is growing in a enormous planter. So there's a lot of other stuff growing in there. There's pawpaws and Carillion cherries and all kinds of stuff, but it has an enormous volume of soil to work with. So it's not a scientific fair comparison one-to-one, but there are a few things that I do want to highlight that stand out quite a bit. So I have not thinned any fruit on this or the other peach that I'll be looking at, which is called Reliance. That's a kind of a standard northern variety for peaches. That other one is grafted, as I'll show you. And so what really is amazing me about this and the other ones that are not in enormous volumes of soil without any competition is that, first of all, the ripening time seems like it's much, much later. These fruits aren't even close to ripening, whereas the Reliance are just coming in now, it being July 19th or something like that. The fruit set is phenomenal. The flower morphology was also totally different, by the way. The petals were almost all flat in a horizontal plane, as opposed to many other peach varieties that have it more arranged like a cone. And the flowers were enormous and super beautiful. But what is amazing is that I see really, really low interest from plum curculio beetle, which really does knock back pretty much all the stone fruits. I mean, my plums, you get 1 out of 1,000 that fruits that set. Maybe one makes it past the plum curculios. They leave no leaf unturned. But these stay so small and so hard and fuzzy so late in the season. Plum curculio oviposition, which is what destroys the fruits. They like make this little. Actually, there's a couple here. It's not exactly the characteristic shape of a fan. It could be curculio, but most of the fruits don't have any. But anyway, that process it goes on for quite a while, from when the fruitlets pretty much, it's called shuck split, I guess, when the fruits explode the old flower and kind of emerge as a young fruitlet. But anyway, that process is over pretty much by now, and these fruits I would consider safe from any further curculio damage. And in addition to that, there's basically no brown rot, which is the other big pathogen. Of course, that may change a little bit later as these really begin to ripen, but often, if not most of the time, it's a wound, like a bunch of plum curculio ovipositions that allow the entry for the brown rot pathogen. But the point is, these are still, I don't know, maybe 2 months away from ripening. They're rock hard. They haven't even begun to have any blush, any color. They're small, which doesn't necessarily mean much, because the recommendations are to thin stone fruit down to 1 fruitlet every 6 inches to get maximum size. So, fruit thinning is a huge job for commercial orchards that I don't really do. And if I had to come and thinned a bunch of these out, I would very likely be left with a smaller number of larger fruits, but I don't really care because I like little fruits. And I'm interested in the seeds because I plant trees everywhere. So this tree looks super promising. It's nice to have some mid-season peaches, but it's nice also to have some late-season peaches. And my friend Sean at Edible Acres, I also got some seeds from him, and I believe he also got them from Michael originally. And I remember harvesting some up there at Edible Acres, and that was in like October. So these seem like a very late ripening. Of course, this is a seedling of one of those, so it's not, you know, that tree. But peaches are notorious for breeding pretty true to type because of the way the flower is pollinated. They pretty much have a high likelihood of self-pollinating. So anyway, the tree just looks super healthy. I'm really happy with it. This is another one. And then this is essentially a whole orchard of Siberian sea seedlings. You've got really vigorous growth, and these are now 7-8 feet tall. This guy's probably closer to 10 feet tall. And I planted that in, I believe it was like, it was pretty weird. It was like February of 2020. And it was 2 feet tall. No exaggeration. What have I done for that tree since? Only scythed around it here and there. That's all the care that it's received. So, and it's on a pile of, it's just growing on a hillside of rubble. This, that guy, that guy. All of these were planted at the same time. Enormous growth. I'm pretty sure next spring we'll finally see a decent crop on that. That'll be year 4 for these guys from seed. But you know, third year, third leaf they call it. These are really phenomenal. They're like weeds. They tend to grow as long as they're, it's not even the best situation. I mean, I didn't amend the soil here. I mulched. I just dug a hole in some rubble and planted it. So it seems like they just have a pretty strong growth form. The one thing I will say is that in the spring, a lot of these got leaf curl and looked like hell. I mean, they looked really bad to the point where you're thinking that they're probably dead. All the leaves, the first leaves that come through, and this is 2 years in the row, for the ones that have been in the ground for 2 years, the leaves come out, it's early, it's cool, and they get absolutely hammered by leaf curl, and then they just grow out of it, and I never do anything. I don't spray copper, I just wish them the best, and apparently that works. This one buckwheat plant, I don't even know how it got here, but it's attracting a lot of beneficials. You always want to, if possible, always have something flowering around your plantings. Anyway, we'll go look at the Reliance. Here's part of the crop of this year's peach seedlings, apricot seedlings too. Growing really well, very happy with that. Ready to go to new homes. Here's a Siberian sea that's just in a 15-gallon pot. I think this is year 2. Maybe, yeah, year 2. Year 3 from seed, year 2 in the pot. So if you only have a patio or a little fire escape or a roof in Brooklyn, perhaps, this would be a perfect tree for that. So here's the Reliance, same day. Obviously much farther along. I wish I had taken this video half an hour ago when I was in here thinning for fruits that have brown rot. I probably removed 30 fruits that were covered in brown mold. They look good. The ones that I removed, there we go, there's one on the ground, look like this or worse. That's brown rot fungus. And this hole here, that's probably, I mean, fungus can just attack a healthy fruit, but it does that very rarely. Usually if there's an opening on it, here's one I missed. And to be fair, the fruits on here that were green and hard also didn't have a whole lot of disease. Obviously that usually happens later in the ripening, but you can see that clear or brownish gel coming out of that fruit, and that's from places where it got injured, and the tree kind of exudes this sap to protect itself and plug up the wounds. Oh gosh, that one is just full of it. At any rate, the tree is healthy. I'm happy with it. Obviously fruiting quite a bit, and that's exciting. And it remains to be seen whether the Siberian Sea can ripen fruits in a higher percentage of clean fruit than this one can. But I will say that so far I'm sort of leaning towards wanting to propagate more Siberian Sea here anyway. Of course, I probably will plant more of these as well, because you want to have things ripening at different parts of the season. And I actually I'm getting enough of these now that we're going to start taking them to the farmer's market and putting them on the table with our vegetables, which is pretty exciting, especially those Siberians that should be ripening late. It's a question whether people will be really interested in peaches in October, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, that was just a brief comparison of these different sorts of peaches, and sort of an explanation as to why I'm growing them from seed rather than grafting. It's just, it seems like, well, the variation is really good because some of them have more resistance to that leaf curl. Some of them have seemingly more resistance to curculio, not necessarily via chemical defense, but more so like when they begin to ripen. It stands to reason that since that other variety stays small and green all the way through the time the curculio is laying eggs, that it won't have as many, the fruits won't have as much damage, and won't be as susceptible to this rotting. And I just found some more on this lower branch I didn't notice before. But, you know, it's a bummer when you get this far and then everything starts to rot. But we've also had an exceptionally wet past few weeks, so it's bound to happen. I would say, in general, peaches, I plan on planting a few peaches every year for the rest of my life, more or less, because they don't have an exceptionally long lifespan. I think of it more like this tree is going to occupy the space for a while, and then on the north side, most peaches I plant, I put in a pawpaw or a persimmon, because those will be able to live in the shade of the peach for a little while, and then when the peach starts to decline due to all the fungal stuff that they sort of inevitably get, something else even better adapted will be already ready to take up the space.